Hey everyone, this is Tony Holbein. You are listening to the Revenue Formula with Mikkel and Tony. In today's episode, we share 5 mistakes that most of you have made already and what you can do about it. Enjoy. Before we jump into the show, today's episode is brought to you by Everstage, the top-rated sales commissions platform on G2, Gartner Peer Insights, and Trustradius, with more than 2,000 reviews from customers like Diligent, Wiley, Trimble, and more. Visit everstage.com and mention Revenue Formula to unlock a personalized sales compensation strategy session with one of Everstage's RevOps experts. And now, enjoy the show.
So Tony, all this intro music, you know what it makes me think of?
That you're old?
No, F you. No, New Year's Eve is around the corner. What are you gonna do New Year's Eve?
The same thing as the last 3 years, or 4 years now maybe. Go to bed around 8 p.m. and then wonder what's happening outside, for hours.
Wake up complaining over the noise. Get it down! Get it down!
Yeah.
You sounded like, what's that? There's this old British skit that always get played.
Oh yeah, in Germany.
Like, in Germany, it's like the same procedure as last year, James.
Yes, every year.
Yeah,
exactly.
You sounded a bit like that. No, I thought you were gonna be in some exotic destination, seeing fireworks and chillaxing.
Yeah, so we will indeed be in some exotic destination in the far east, actually.
Of Germany. Yep.
And we're probably going to be in some bungalow in the mountains and, going to be enjoying the New Year's. I don't know yet where and how and what and so forth, but I think it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
And I think given that we kind of be running around there with kids anyway, yes.
Yeah.
I think the procedure will be similar where we probably have a glass of champagne and maybe a nice piece of food somewhere, but it's gonna be around 8 or 9 p.m. It's like let's just go to bed.
Yeah.
Let's just prepare for the 7 a.m. onslaught.
Yeah.
That's gonna happen regardless.
No, I get that. I think it's wonderful because quite often I've at least dreamed of that scenario of traveling during the holidays and experiencing the New Year's abroad. So I'm looking forward to hear how it's gonna go, even though you'll go to bed at an orderly time, I would say.
Yes.
Even though. So
what about yourself? I mean, you're just gonna be sticking around here, right?
Yeah, we're just gonna stick around home, have some friends over. It's gonna be pretty relaxed, I think.
Have you figured this thing actually out with kids? I mean, are you gonna have then the actual until midnight? I mean, if you have friends over, you're gonna be up until midnight, right?
Yeah, if they can, they're allowed to, I will say. But it's probably only one, and last time, I think he made it till like 10 or something, and then woke up and got out with us. So we'll play it by ear. It all depends on what mood, how do they sleep. There's a couple of factors there. So we'll see how that goes. But we'll definitely have fun. Also now the kids are just a little bit older. They can get to experience and actually understand some of the things happening. So I think that's gonna be good fun. But it also means we're ringing in the new year, and with it comes Q1. And you and I think this is maybe the third time by now we're talking about basically the fuck-ups, mistakes people make when they're just starting Q1, when they're just entering the quarter. And maybe, I hate to say it, but maybe some of them, it's just too late. And then you can feel at ease knowing you're not the only one. But at least we want to run through some of the ones we've seen over and over and over again, also heard from folks we've talked with, just to prepare you for the year to come, so you can hopefully get an awesome start regardless, right?
Yeah, so I think the mess ups will be largely there already anyway. But I think there's some counter steers you can execute here, and I think that's basically what we're trying to talk about today, to not make this just a wine show, but also something for you to go out and do. The first thing you should do, jumping right in there, implement this AI. No, don't do anything with AI. Yes, we're talking a lot about that stuff, and we're talking about it because we think it's going to be pretty critical.
Yeah, very transformative.
But no, doesn't need to happen in January. Kind of all of that stuff that you maybe have on the docket, push it out, F it. Like what you need to nail now is get some points up on the board and nail January. Kind of, getting out of the gate strong. I think that's extremely important. And all this AI stuff is probably not going to kind of deliver that for you, right? Yeah. I mean, not only does the technology probably still need some time, but also implementing and making it work this is a longer process. So all of the hopes and dreams you might have for AI, I think is not going to happen in January or February. I think it's going to happen later. So this is a thing to just, not focus too much on actually in January. And that would be my advice.
No, I agree. January is not where you make the big dreamy swings. It's where you make sure you get a good start, and you don't do that by, taking the moonshot right away. And probably you're going to experience that people are a bit hungover, to be frank, in the first couple of days at least, and then you need to get back into execution mode. Also, with all the goals and targets and projects just being wiped out, reset, it's just a new start for everyone that you need to go through. I know one of the things you mentioned was you need to make sure that you don't give sales any excuses. Can you maybe, let's start with this one. I feel like this is something you can do something about potentially to a degree.
So you have an advantage. This year's Christmas and New Year's falls in an interesting way. So I think New Year's is on a Tuesday, or kind of the last day of the year is the 31st is on a Tuesday. So I hope you kind of closed all the business until then. The first is a Wednesday, and then basically the first real day back at work is actually a Thursday. So what many people, at least in Europe, will be doing is like, let's bridge those 2 days. Let's make it a nice week and so forth, right? Kind of. So really, work will commence, what is on the 6th or something like this? Kind of, if I'm doing the math right in my head, 6th or 7th or something like this. That will be a Monday. So what you and the team can actually do, have them, and I mean, your managers and maybe your RevOps, SalesOps team come in that Thursday and Friday and just knock out the things that you need to do in order to prevent the sales team from having those excuses, right? And when I say that, I mean the good old, standard, basic, baseline stuff. Have targets. Yeah, like everyone needs to have those targets in place for AEs, for each of the AEs. What are the different numbers? What is it for the SDRs? What is it for the managers? What is it for directors? What goes up on the board that you show in the sales room? Get that stuff in order. Use the Thursday and Friday to kind of flesh it out, and then push it out, right? Next thing, have the comp plans ready. Like, have a meeting already in the books for the Monday morning or before noon, where you present the new comp plans to the AEs and then send them out straight after. Don't give them a chance to linger around for a week or two and be like, we don't know our sales targets yet, so therefore we can't start any of the hard work. We know all of this is just an excuse, but just don't give them the opportunity. Have all of that stuff done and ready. And if you're ready, the team will also kind of feel the need to be ready kind of with you. And then the last thing, and there might be a couple of more pieces, admin pieces, but the last thing is like have the territories properly cut out, right? Kind of if you're running that kind of setup, have the territories done, have the account plans done, have this thing actually be ready to go. So these guys, in fact, can start prospecting into this and start executing. And try and, while no one is in the office, try and take this Thursday and Friday in order to knock these things out, have it done and ship it over the weekend, and then have it ready for the guys and girls when they start on Monday to go start and execute without any excuses.
So I really like this. I think it's also what will happen is when the AEs basically enter the office after the holiday, they will feel like, oh my God, everything is just under control and I'm actually maybe a little bit behind. I need to get cracking here. Like, I need to roll up my sleeves now and get running. I've been like sleeping and drinking wine and partying for a week now. Now it's time to secure the next commission, right? Versus the whole, man, they didn't even set up the targets. You know what? I'll just work from home today and wait to see if someone books me an opportunity, and maybe I'll do that, right? It's like this is a little bit more, creates a little bit more urgency in the organization.
It's setting the pace, if you will, right? Kind of really think about it like this, right? And the first thing that you want them to do is like clean out your pipelines. You have all of this crap from the 31st of December. You have everything now sitting in the 5th quarter. We know where this is going to go. And like, let's go. Let's not have any excuses here.
Yeah. The other classic also usually in the sales area is the hiring plan.
Yeah.
Hiring plan.
So, I mean, we've built a business around this, around revenue planning. We kind of, if you've been part of this show for a while, you know the ins and outs of planning and what we think about it. What we can also tell you is planning's probably late.
Yeah.
You as a VP or even as a CEO, you probably haven't gotten you know your budget yet, you haven't gotten your hiring plans yet, none of this is there. So and we just know that that's the reality, period. And chill about it, right? You should obviously kind of do all the tactics to kind of get more information ASAP, but you probably won't have it right now. Maybe, hopefully, you get it in January. But whenever you get it, immediately review it and then do what I would call do an immediate counter steer. Yeah. Because what is very likely in those hiring plans is someone should have started on the 1st of January. And you know what? They probably didn't start. Yeah. Similarly so, someone probably should have been out of ramp by now, or ramping a different way, or whatever might be the case. You need to understand what the numbers are behind this hiring plan, review it, and when you see an actual flaw, something that's not correct, counter steer immediately. Because those things that you say yes to in January, February, March, kind of those hires, they will have a massive impact then later on in the year, of course. And if you don't start fixing this immediately, sure, your Q1 will be slightly off, but not that much, because those folks aren't out of ramp and so forth, right? So they won't be impacting your Q1 numbers that much, but they will impact the rest of the year. Yeah. Right? Kind of do an immediate counter steer to give yourself a little bit of a leg up for Q1, but also set yourself up for success Q2 and beyond.
Do you think for next year people can just pre-hire? And then
no,
because I know from a marketing point of view, with paid budgets, at least you can intentionally choose to just burn a little bit more in Q1 and then adjust afterwards. It's a little bit more difficult with people, obviously. So I was just curious.
I think people will stay scared around hiring. I think unless you're part of the AI rocket ship that's kind of taking off everywhere, you'll be careful around hiring. And I think if there's one thing that has settled now from this growth at all costs to profitable, efficient growth switch, the one thing that has settled now is like, you should probably wait with hiring AEs. I think that's the number one thing where people are like, I'm not so sure. Maybe we should have the demand first. Maybe we need to wait until our current AEs are really, panting and kind of can't take anymore. Instead of this, what we previously had is like, well, if we don't hire them now, we have no chance to reach this unreachable Q4 number. So we'd rather hire them now, right? I think some people have graduated from this. So I don't think people will do crazy hiring or kind of preemptive hiring. But I think the opposite will still be true. I think people will be behind hiring. Even though it's not going to be big numbers, they will be behind. And this will be one of the reasons why you're probably going to miss your 2025 plan, by the way. But at least for now, when you get the plans too late, it's not your fault yet. It's not your fault yet. And so when you do get it and there is something wrong already, do an immediate counter steer.
Yeah. And immediate pushback. It's like, now I can't make the plan. just to get that jab in right away. I think the other funny thing you and I were talking about previous to this episode was the whole, throughout the last 12 months, you're going to have created leads and opportunities where people just went, you know what, Tony, I love what you're building. Totally see myself using it next year. I don't have the budget now. Maybe next year I'll have the budget, right? You'll have a ton of those. And a smart marketing person, if you work at a team, a company where you're basically saying, marketing brought in this amount of revenue and outbound brought in this amount of revenue, the smart teams, what they do is they make sure to follow up with those leads as the first thing in January, so they don't end up sitting there crying in the corner. Because quite frankly, if you do nothing, you have no claim whatsoever. You've done nothing to try and bring those folks back to the table. And I just want to point that out, that even though there was some touch point back in time and you did an amazing event and all those contacts came from this amazing account, and now Greg, the SDR, does a shitty outreach and books them, you know what? You deserve not to get the attribution. You actually deserve it if you've not done the work to try and bring them in.
Yeah, and I think this is a great example of just a January or Q1 play. So one thing that we used to do, which was extremely successful, was every month, and to a degree for a quarter, you plan every month to call out the plays. What are the plays we're going to be doing in January? What are the plays we're going to be doing in February? And you as a management team, you strategize on that. You're going to try and figure this out, and then you roll it out as those months come by, right? And again, use this time that you have now between the years. What's gonna be your January play, right? You might be a company that doesn't need to be involved in the budgeting process of your buyer in order to then have budget, right? Maybe you're not a 100K, 500K kind of ticket. Maybe you're a smaller ticket. Maybe you can slip in. And yes, budget's reset now, and that's kind of probably going to give you an opportunity to jump in, right?
Yeah.
It might also be that you're selling to higher education. Guess what? Their budget reset happens in the summer. So that's not a play for you right now. There might be something you're selling to government in the US. Like there's a government shutdown kind of conversation happening right now. I think otherwise those budget resets, I think in October, maybe I'm kind of completely
It varies.
off. But I'm just saying kind of you need to kind of figure out what are your plays, and they might be different for each industry and they might be different for each company, but sit down and figure out, what could be the January play.
Yeah.
And then announce this also on Monday and for Tuesday, New Year, when you have your team meeting and say like, hey, this is what we're going to be doing. It could be, hey, we had this price increase happening for the new year, but because you and I chatted and we're pals, we're gonna honor it until the end of January. I mean, there are all kinds of plays you can kind of do now, and you need to sit down, figure out what they could be, and then you need to go out and execute them. And this like close loss because of budget reason is just one of them. It's a really good one, and it's probably true across the board.
Yeah, and I think it's also a great way for you to start the year getting sales and marketing working a bit closer together, quite frankly. And the other thing is, this doesn't have to be an overly complex thing, right? It doesn't have to be all kinds of crazy things you account for. It can be as simple as you've agreed on an approach with email being maybe the catalyst. Guess what? Then you need to write and schedule an email. That could be enough of a starting point. Obviously, I mean, it will depend on the business, but you're also going to have folks that just don't know what happened in your business in Q4 since you spoke. And you probably released a ton of great stuff you can also highlight. So I leave it with you, dear listener, just to say that is a wonderful opportunity you have to basically support the business in those folks who already showed interest in the last 12 months. Bring them back to the table. Chances are it's a little bit better than last year. So some of them might actually have budget.
Yes.
Some might have budget. So the other thing, since we're in the marketing realm, Tony, is
a typical one.
And I've made this mistake myself. It's basically that you screwed up January in Q4.
Why is no one surprised when you say that? Everyone's like, no, I can see that, Mikkel. No worries.
Everyone,
we're not surprised. It's okay.
One of them on this call right now. Yeah. That's cool. My former boss here. No, so I think what happens sometimes is Q4 becomes a squeeze right up until the end when everyone is just off. And then the things you planned to build for January and Q1, you know what? You just didn't get a chance to start it or complete it. So when folks start showing up for work in January, you're basically showing up with a deadline that's due in a week and work that will take you maybe 3 weeks. So there's no chance in hell that you're going to be able to ship that thing that you planned for, right? And it's a very common thing. It is a bit more tricky part of the year to plan for. Still a planning fuck up that you should do everything you can to avoid, just to be very clear. There is accountability here. But now what you want to make sure you do is that you don't just stress everybody out like crazy, pushing to make sure you still deliver that thing. You might need to just replan within Q1 to see what's realistic. And the reason you want to do that is you want to make sure you get a great start to the year. And you're not going to do that if you're chasing the plan from day one. You're just not going to be able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I love the solution of like, oh, we're behind. Let's just take the foot off the gas pedal. Let's just chill a little bit. Let's just make sure no one is being stressed out here, right? That's such a typical marketing advice to give, guys. Like, hey, we messed up this thing, kind of this campaign that we wanted to run in the first week of January. It's going to really only happen in the fourth week of January. But it's fine. It's MQLs anyway, right?
No, there's still going to be targets you're going to have to hit, and you need to figure it out. It will possibly create a delta or gap in the plan for you somewhere, and you will need to compensate for it. Just like if you're behind on hiring, you need to counter steer. Point is just you can't just force it through in the same month. Just like hiring, you can't just magically make those hires show up. And to be clear, yes, there is accountability here. You should, as a leadership team, if this is happening, you know what? You should step up and say, hey, this has happened. And sometimes there's legitimate reasons why. And you can explain, hey, Q4, we had to do these things and it came at the cost of this. Or no, we thought we could do it. We didn't. Now we need to kind of bite the bullet.
I think what can at least soften the blow a little bit for the rest of the team. It's like, just with sales, try and think about, are there some creative place we can execute that aren't taking so much time? It's not a big campaign.
Yeah.
It's not sustainable. It's a one-off kind of thing, but we could do it, right? Kind of, it's almost this email that we wanted to send out in the end of January to have a hard CTA to book a demo. Could we maybe pull this earlier? Could we pull this a week earlier, 2 weeks earlier? Can we do something here? You mentioned this play about, hey, there was maybe some close lost opportunities we should be reaching out. Yeah. Are there some leads maybe that were disqualified because of this, and maybe we can do the same thing? It's like, is there some other thing we can do here that is not, that wasn't in the playbook before Christmas, but now that we're on the back foot and we want to deliver something to also show the rest of the team that we care about the hitting target, that we could kind of come up with right now? I think it's just going to make you as a marketing leader much more also believable across the team.
Yeah, I think for sure that's going to be helpful. But usually what I find you want to do in the beginning of the year as a marketing team, you want to do the things that deliver a benefit in Q2, 3, and 4, right? Yeah. So let me explain. Like, there's probably going to be places on your website that prospects are visiting, and some of them aren't that great to begin with. Well, if you optimize those in January versus November, even a small lift in conversion rate is going to have a massive impact, because you get that for pretty much the full year. Versus in November, you're not going to care, right? You're not going to care. And I think that's also, it's pretty important to bring that mindset into Q1 as a marketing person. And maybe this is just a bit of a side tangent, but that's how I would go about it. Definitely, you need to accept the ownership of that mistake and then just move forward with a plan. You don't have to force the same one through. Then the last one on the list. The
last one that we at least have on our list is, so we talked to Robin the other day, not sure kind of when this is going to be airing, but basically we talked about some of the leadership pieces. And in that conversation, we had a part where we talked about, when are people thinking about leaving their jobs? Yeah. And we basically kind of said like, well, after the summer break, and between the years, so between Christmas and New Year, so which is basically now. So what this will mean, yes, there will be some internal implications. Some of your folks might be leaving, but what it also means is maybe there are new decision makers in your customer base. Yeah. Maybe you need to kind of think about like, we had a really good relationship with that account because of that person. Is that person still there? Yeah. Right? And this is both an upside and a downside. And this is really for your CS team and your account management team to go after and figure this out. Number one is to shore up your defense. You need to figure out, okay, where are we weak? Do we need to work ourselves into the account again? Who's the new decision maker? Where did they come from? What tech did they use? Do we have a problem here? But then the other thing is also, especially the folks that you had a good relationship with, it's like, well, where did they go? Yeah. Right? Is there an opportunity here to, depending on how you do the ROE and the organization, but it's an opportunity here to build we called it NRR plus. Yeah. Like, yes, it's not really net retention rate if you kind of do a new biz deal, but with a person that used to be a user, right? Yeah. Because maybe you have a good relationship with them, but that's a way to, score some points from the account management or CSM side towards wherever you count it, but at least adding more revenue to the board, right? So those are things you can do in January that you might have missed in December and Q4 when you kind of were running up to hitting the year end. Now that you've slept on it and kind of Q4 is over and you're looking at Q1, those are kind of the plays for the different teams. I would be at least expecting from my VPs to bring to the table, trying to kickstart Q1 and not have this be like a slow progression. And for the first 2 weeks, we kind of don't do anything and we're then behind, and then Q1 is fucked.
I think it's also difficult because it's the period where everyone has the company kickoff, the sales kickoff, the whatever. There's a lot of kickoffs happening as soon as you're back from that break, and people are still in that hungover stage. You probably also need a plan just to bring people back into the game. I feel like we at least have had a couple of points here around making sure you have like the targets and territories in place, that you know if you're already behind that you need to reset the plan, and hiring, if it's not in place, you need to counter steer. I think those are some of the things where it's just great to have almost an answer ready before the question is asked. And so I am looking forward to see what kind of year we're entering. I definitely think it's going to be interesting, and I really hope that for a lot of listeners out there that they've not made any of these mistakes, so they don't need our advice.
Probably
that would be
all of them. Probably not.
I mean, there's intelligent listeners. We've concluded that already, so chances are very high that they haven't made these mistakes. Very high.
Wonderful, Mikkel. Wonderful, everyone else listening. If you like this show, hit subscribe or follow wherever you do this. I'm not sure if you knew this. It's for free. You don't need
Doesn't
to pay
cost you a
anything
dime.
for it. Doesn't cost anything. It makes us smile a lot. So that's why it's a really good reason to do it. And if you think someone else on your team could benefit from it, just send them this thing and kind of see what happens. Again, thank you, Mikkel, and thank you, everyone else. Have a great day, and bye-bye.
Bye.